think Michael's just gonna check and see if we're live real quick.
It looks like we are live.
Awesome. Hello and welcome to the Surviving 1984 Director's Cut finale. This game started with a battle between the Murphy and the Davis tribes. In the first couple rounds, we saw the tribes alternate going to tribal council. In the first 4 rounds, 2 members of each tribe were down by 2 members. Moving on into the second half of the pre-merge, the Murphy tribe did start to go on a losing streak, leaving them with the minority coming the merge. Starting in the merge, we saw idle plays, immunity runs, and lots of strategy talks. Ultimately, we ended up here at the final tribal council with 3 OG Davis. After a long pre-merge, a shock of no tribe swap, and many crazy rounds, we are finally here with Constance, Ben, and Jake. So here's how tonight is going to work. You 3 will each be given 5 minutes for opening speeches. Then each juror will come in one by one and will be given 7 minutes each. Please, for the finalists, please remain on mute while the jurors are talking. Just like you guys got your 5 minutes, they will get their 7 minutes. Of course, unless they address you, then you can come off mute and answer them. At the end of the jury questioning, we will get into the final speeches and the closing arguments. You will each be given 3 minutes for your closing argument, and then we will get into the vote and the vote reveal. Does anybody have any questions about how tonight is going to work?
Sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Since Jake has won the final immunity competition, he has chosen the order for the opening speeches. That order will just be reversed for the closing arguments. So Jake has chosen that Ben will go first, then Jake, and then Constance, which means for the closing arguments, it will go Constance, Jake, then Ben. Does anybody have any questions?
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, so with that being said, Ben, whenever you are ready, you may begin with your opening statement.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'd just like to start to say thank you for everyone to make the game as enjoyable as possible. This has been my first game in a whole year, and it will probably be my last ever. So I'm really glad that you guys made it a fun game. Anything that I did at Tribal Council that might have come across as offensive or, cocky, I really didn't mean any of that, and it was all just fun and games for me. I'm a very competitive person. I was really bummed I didn't win any of the immunities. But at the end of the game, I was the sole person to knock out Brian, who was running the game the whole time in a very strategic competition for fire making. And I pride myself in being that person to knock him out. I definitely showed my dedication to this game in the challenges, even despite my lack of availability with my work. I worked 12 to 14 hours a day and only had a few hours a day to focus on this game. So, I did my best to call with people when I could. And when I called with people, I meant what I said because I really didn't have enough time to BS. But yeah, I didn't win any immunities, but I got pretty close to a few of them, especially that final immunity. Me and Jake standing on one foot for 2 hours and 15 minutes. If that doesn't prove my, dedication to this game, I don't know what does. So the other thing I had to overcome, I was an underdog this whole game. I mean, at the very beginning, me and Tim were an obvious final 2. Me and him have known each other for years and years, and I was never planning on betraying him. Me kind of coming to him and telling him about the perceived final 3 of Livingston and him and Kevin put me in a really bad spot. I never would have done anything different, but I definitely had to recover after that. I voted for Livingston, the first tribal, Jake, the second tribal. And I knew I had to bounce back and socially recover from that. And ironically, I made a final 2 deal with each of them later on. I also recovered by talking more with people like Jackson and Brian and other people that I betrayed in the game. And I found myself in a great position coming in merge with multiple end game plans with like 4 different groups. Um, Strategically, I always tried to get people to make a move, but unfortunately, no moves really, like big moves, really made this season. I was always the person speaking out against the big threats, like Hunter, for example. I know, like Connor said, the jury respected big moves, and I wanted that in my resume. So I felt like I had to pit myself against him to do that move. And it was really difficult to make moves with people, coming back to Hunter and other people with information that I was trying to spread. So I had to adapt to that and wait on other people to vote out the big threats. I do think that voting out Hunter at Final 8 was the best move, and it was a miscalculation by Jake and Brian, especially because once he pulled out the vote steal, they didn't trust in Brandon, they didn't trust in Hearn to vote out Hunter, and I think that was because I had better connections with the Murphy side of the tribe. That allowed me to be more perceptive on the game, and it allowed me to be more safe. I felt like, honestly, probably the most comfortable person on the Merge tribe because I had all these end game plans with people on Davis, but I also kept conversations with like Hearn and Brandon and starting with Caitlin on strategic things later on, making moves and working with them long term. So, and on the Davis side of things, I had 2 Final 3s and 2 Final 4s with combinations of Jackson, Brian, Jake, and Livingston. So I felt like I was in a very good social position, especially early merge. When the idol was played, I wasn't targeted, and someone like Jake or
60
Conflict
seconds.
could have been more likely targeted. I think that I did play the best social game out of the 3 finalists. Brian definitely played the best social game out of everybody. But I was set up pretty well coming into the merge, especially despite my starting position in the game, everything I had to overcome. So I really do think that I deserve the title of Soul Survivor, and I'd like to hear all your questions, and I hope you consider voting me. And thank you for everyone for playing. Bring on the questions.
Alrighty. So after Ben comes Jake. Jake, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Okay, I just want to say thank you guys for a great season. Good luck to my fellow final 2 people. This is actually my first final 3, so I'm super excited. I'm probably going to mess it all up, but here goes nothing. So I pretty much started this game really, really strong in a core alliance with Constance, Hunter, and Brian. We were then able to pull in Constance and Nicole so that we were able to have a tribal majority over the rest of the tribe and pretty much knock out everybody we wanted. Most notably in the pre-merge for me was being able to get out Nicole, because the round before that, she was targeting me. So not only was I doing moves that were good for the group, but there was also being personal and helping me evolve in the game as well by getting out people who were targeting me. Coming into the merge, I definitely used the Davis majority to my advantage. I think I was pretty set up well. I wasn't the biggest threat on the Davis. I had my 5 people going in: Constance, Hunter, Jackson, and Brian. And then around that time, I was able to get into group chats with Benjamin and later on Livingston and secure relationships with them so that if they were to ever flip, it wouldn't be on me. This was around the time that I was starting to plant seeds of potentially flipping on Hunter. And I was just trying to see if Ben and Livingston would be down for that and get their guns pointed at Hunter before they'd be pointed at me. Around this time, I had known about Hunter's steal vote since the pre-merge, and I also knew about both of Brian's idols. Around Final 10, when Brian decided to use his idol, I was actually the one that told him, we're fine, we do not need to use it. He used it anyways. So my perception and read on the game was amazing. I always knew where everybody was at all times, and I was able to use those advantages in the game to my advantage. One of my most notable moves was at Final 8, the Brandon vote. At that time, I had Ben and Livingston's gun pointed at Hunter, but I also knew about Hunter's vote steal that I eventually needed him to flush out so that he would be an open target for me to go after later on in the game. I was able to get votes put on Hunter so he could use his vote steal correctly to maintain loyalties with him, while also getting out Brandon, who I had never spoken game and had no clue where his head was at. Later on in the game, I knew Hunter was a big threat. I was working very closely with Brian, but he was also a very big threat to win, as you all know. both of them turned into meat shields for me, and I was able to hide behind them, make every move that I wanted to make while they took the credit in my hands, or while they took the blame for it and my hands remained clean. Going into Final 5, I was able to win Final 5, stop Hunter's reign, and ultimately secure my spot in the Final 4, whereas he was vulnerable. So I was able to vote him out of the game, my biggest threat, and I've been planning to do that for a long time. Going into Final 4, I knew that me and Brian's games were far too similar for me to ever have a case in the end. So I knew I had to fight hard in the immunity to guarantee that I could take a shot finally at Brian and secure my place as the person who made the move to do so. So I stood on one foot for 2 hours. Thank you, Jesus, I won. And I ended up being able to make my move, sending in Ben and Brian, ultimately leading to Brian going home. I wasn't the most outspoken. I wasn't the most honest in the game. I'll be the first to admit, but every move I made for myself to guarantee that at the time, all my bases were covered and I wasn't going to be getting votes and blindsided. I voted a majority every time except for the Jackson vote off due to Connor's idol. I had an excellent read on the game. And I hope you guys can see that even though I wasn't the most talkative, every vote and every person that went home at the time that they did was what I wanted to happen at the time. And I was slowly pulling the strings behind. My strategy was to appear weak, appear that I wasn't running the game so that people could get blood on their hands and that their target would grow while mine stayed small and I was able to do whatever I wanted without any repercussions of that. I was in the driver's seat for a lot of the game. I know everybody thinks Brian was, but I was definitely more vocal with him. He even said at one point, I'm going to listen to you because you have a better read on the game. So from then I was able to kind of get my way and make what I wanted to happen. When I wasn't in the driver's seat, I was definitely in shotgun giving the directions for what I wanted to happen and when I needed to happen. This game was a slow burn for me. It was all about timing. I told multiple people that timing was everything for me. I never wanted to make a move too early for fear that it would come back to bite me and people would turn on me. So that's why I waited till the very end to make the moves that I did against Hunter and then eventually Brian, ultimately leading me to be hopefully the strongest player left in the game at the end. I look forward to your questions and thank you guys for an amazing season.
All right. Thank you, Jake. Up next is Constance. Constance, you may begin.
All right, thank you. First and foremost, I just want to say good luck to my two finalists that are sitting next to me. In the beginning of this game, I started off at a natural disadvantage, seeing as I knew of a lot of faces that may not have the best opinion of me to a degree. With that being said, I ultimately felt as though that I needed to play a very quiet game and just observe and assess everything in the beginning of this game. I feel like that when I started to assess things and see people for their connections and whatnot, I needed to definitely pick up the pace very fast, especially after our first our first tribal immunity competition. It was at that point where I then used my minor connections of Hunter, who had played my first ever Ord with me, and Nicole, who had hosted me in a sentence, to the best of my ability and try and get those connections going. At that point in time, I then started to create connections with Brian and a stronger one with Hunter in general because we weren't really all that close. It was at that point where the Sexy Six was created, and ultimately I was able to survive that round because I was an initial first target, and although that there were votes against Livingston, I was able to still move away from that ideal tribal council, considering that it was going to be me if I had not figured something out. And at that point, I realized that this game was definitely going to be all about perception for me. I was able to eventually get through tribal councils and realize that the people that were working together more, for example, like Tim and Nicole, I had to cut it. I also felt as though that I had a pretty good read on who was working with who, even in the group that I was with. I feel like that at certain points in this game, I was able to decide whether or not what was best for me. I had a very open-minded, open idealistic approach to this game, and anybody can probably say that who was close with me, saying, I'm open to the ideas of whatever you want to do. I'm open to this, I'm open to that. I may have lied a few times here and there in this game, and I definitely will be the first to admit to that as well. I feel like that I was not necessarily overall cocky in this game. I definitely feel as though that I played a very adaptable game. I was not afraid to make a move whenever I needed to do so, but it was going to be for me and for whenever I felt it was necessary. I feel like that although that my weakness may not necessarily, my weakness may be my ability to not create a lot of connections with Murphys at the merge, I feel as though that my ability to maintain loyalties until I needed to cut them and ultimately do whatever I thought was best for me was when I started to evolve my game. I feel like that one major point in this game for me, as an example, was was when I realized that ultimately Nicole was going to be leaving and I had to make a sacrifice. And ultimately I got out of that move scot-free by making sure that the rest of the 6 would allow me to still vote with Nicole, and Nicole would still not be betrayed by me in any certain way, because I did want to work with her long term in this game, but that's just how it was. And I feel like that opened up my game to a lot more. I was never truly a target for the fire making challenge at all, in my personal opinion. I feel like that regardless of who it was, I feel like that I still would have made it to the final 3. I feel like that I also I was trying to say something. I feel like that I also was trying to, you know, get Hunter to eventually come to the final 5 with me. So that way, I feel like that they were all going to crack down on each other. I feel like that it was going to be a me versus Hunter scenario before it even started. And with that being said, I feel like that although Hunter said he was going to vote for me, he never did. Anytime that anybody ever had a vote on me, I always either managed to survive it or barely even get a vote about it in general, or I always managed to make sure that it was definitely not me in that case. I definitely played a very social game with the people who I knew. I definitely believe that my downfall was my social game, as far as not necessarily having good Murphy connections. I know I'm not the most favorable and well-liked individual in this game, but I feel like that I definitely have had a longer road than everybody else that is in this final 3. I don't feel like that I was cocky about the moves that I made. I don't feel like that I was somebody who just coasted along. I do feel like that I played the best of my ability, and I hope that all of you on the jury are able to see that, and I really hope that you guys ask me questions that will help you decide whether or not I truly deserve to win this game. Thank you, and I wish you all the best of luck.
All right, thank you, Constance.
I know I'm not the most
Our
favorable,
first-
and well.
Our first juror has just arrived. So Luke, whenever you are ready, your 7 minutes will begin.
Hello. Okay. So I I haven't kept up at all since I left. So I am your blank slate. I'm going to try to put any previous preconceptions I have out the door. But I want each of you. I want each of you to explain to me what your most exciting moment was in the game and why it was important to the game. Yeah, so we'll start with Jake.
So my most exciting moment in the game was definitely being able to flush Hunter's vote steal while still getting out the target I wanted. At that time, Brandon.
Okay.
So I was able to have Benjamin and Livingston ready and under the impression that we were going to strike at Hunter now. And then I had Hunter understanding that they were after him and he needed to use his vote steal to survive. So I was able to not only flush his vote steal, but get him to use it correctly so that I still could maintain trust with him while still getting out the overall person that I never talked game with, had no clue where his head was, Brandon. And that was super exciting because just pulling that off seems like a lot, but I was able to do that and that was super cool.
Awesome. Okay. Ben.
I'd say my most exciting part in the game was Final 4 when I won the fire making challenge against Brian. I mean, I have tried all game to make a move for myself, but other people weren't necessarily down for that. I mean, you need numbers to make a move, right? And that six alliance had control of the game for a large portion of it, and I did my best to win immunities. Fire making, I wanted to win. I wasn't afraid of fire making. I wanted to put myself in there. I was considering putting myself in there. I was more likely going to put Jake and Brian, but I wasn't really afraid of it, and I knew I needed to go for the big players. And so,
what was the challenge? Like, what was
it
that?
It was like you had to. It was like a chessboard kind of, and I was on one side, Brian was on the other, and we needed to make moves like a knight in chess.
Yeah, until you can't anymore.
Yeah, like if you ever watched
Okay.
BB6.
Yeah,
it was that challenge. So that was definitely very intense. And after that was done, I was very tired. It was like 2 a.m, and I just lost final immunity. So that was definitely a big win for me.
Congrats. All right, Constance.
I feel like that one of my most exciting moments in this game was actually going toe-to-toe with one of my faves, Hunter, at Final 5. I feel like that when I found out a lot of information that he hid from me throughout this portion of the game, which I had already had a perception about anyway, I felt like that it was necessary for me to hear what Brian and Jake had to say about the situations that were taking place. I ultimately kind of just asked him straight up whether or not he knew of Brian, whether or not at that point in time in the game, because Brian was still there in the game, and he gave me a different story. Brian gave me another story, and it was just really strong for me in that particular round because I feel like that I was able to kind of go up against the person that was the biggest threat. And although I know I may have not been the target that round, it felt great to realize that my game was on the line. And I feel like that I ultimately found out a lot and made a move that was beneficial for me to showcase the fact that I didn't follow anybody. So that's how I feel.
So just from what the other jurors have been saying, do you not think that you were brought here because you're a layup?
I feel like that I was brought, I mean, I feel like that people think I'm brought here because they feel like that I'm easy to beat and that I don't necessarily have the best likability and the best overall general, perception of things. What'd you say?
You said reputation.
Reputation, that's what I was gonna say, yeah. Overall reputation of this game and in general with people, but I do feel like that at the same time that with those same things that may not be of my best nature, I feel like that it's also been something that I've had to try and step and get through each and every round in order to get to where I'm at. So it's definitely been difficult and I am just doing what I can in order to show everybody that I really did play my own game.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's all I have. I think I talked to one of you maybe in person ever, so you should have made better connections, and I'm the easy one, y'all. So good luck, strap in, buckle up. It's gonna get wild. Good luck to you all, congrats.
All right, thank you, Luke. The next juror is on their way, and there they are. Hello, Jackson. Whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Cool. All right. First out, congrats, final three. No harsh words from me, concerning I worked with all of you all game. It was a pleasure meeting all of you, and good luck to the three of you. My question for you guys is, I want you guys to kind of drag the other two here. I want to know why the other two do not deserve to win the game. We'll start with Ben.
All right, I think that I definitely had to depend the least on other people in this game. Constance, as he said, was very close, well, at least made close alliances with Nicole and Hunter. And I think a lot of people on the Davis tribe thought that Constance and Nicole were unbreakable and that Nicole was the one kind of the brains behind the operation. And then it was kind of the same situation at the merge with Hunter. With Jake, he had a very close connection with Brian, and Brian was definitely in the center of everything socially, and he definitely benefited from that. Jake talked a lot about having a lot of perception in the game. He definitely had to come to me so many times, super paranoid, saying, is Livingston going to vote with us? He didn't trust Livingston at all, and he didn't trust the minority at all. So I was the one that had to assure him that those connections were solid, and that's why I think that I deserve to win the game, because I depended most of myself.
Okay. Constance, next.
All right. So personally, in my opinion, I feel like that as far as Ben's game goes, I feel like that sometimes in this game, he was cocky for all the wrong reasons. I do feel like that there are points in time in this game where he would have expected certain things to go the way that he had wanted, and ultimately it didn't really go that way. And even then, after the fact that it didn't go that way, he was still kind of feeling a certain type of way about it, which I didn't necessarily understand. I do feel like that although that he may have had some great connections, he did a really good job. I do feel like that he wasn't really the most trustworthy individual from everybody else. As far as Jake's game, Jake won detrimental and immunity challenges whenever he did need to do so. At the same time, however, those two immunity competitions do not add up to an entire gameplay. I do feel like that most of this game, he's kind of just been here and there. I do feel like that he has the same connections that I do to a degree. However, I don't feel like that he had to necessarily work as far to get to where he is the way that I have.
Okay. And Jake?
For Constance, I think just from the, what's it called? The touchy subjects, he was voted most likely to never talk to anyone in the game after it was over. I didn't think he had a lot of good connections with people, and the layup, I personally had no offense to his game. I think he's a layup, and that's why I brought him to the end. For Benjamin, or Ben, because I'm reading right here, how many times did he think Hunter was going, but then that didn't happen because I wasn't on board with that. The one move he made to get out Brian, I gave him that by winning and putting the two people that were probably the biggest chances to beat me against each other in fire and bringing the person I for sure could potentially beat in the end. So that is why I think I deserve to win over both of them.
All right. Thank you guys, and good luck to you three.
All right, thank you, Jackson. The next juror should be on their way. All right, and there's Mr. Connor. Connor, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
First off, I want to say that I'm being stern with y'all. And there's a reason I'm being stern with y'all. Straight up, I want you all to know that any Murphy that comes on here and asks you a question, any Murphy that comes on here and actually talks to you and gives you the light of day is a privilege that none of you gave to us. Straight up. So you need to be aware that any Murphy that even comes on here and even just sits on here, whether they eat soup, whatever they do, it's a privilege that none of you bitches gave to us. Straight up. Everyone understand that? It's a what concept? It's a, stay with me, privilege. Jay gets a privilege, and Ben, it's a privilege. Okay. So I have a very bone to pick with one of you. I don't know how long this is going to take. So the other two, I hope I can get around to you. I don't know if I'll be able to. I only got 7 minutes. So let's get straight to it. Constance, let's talk.
Okay.
I'm really, really, really baffled because I remember one day we had a talk, and this was the round I knew I was done. I was done. There's no point. Like, I knew, like, I'm toast. That's why you addressed to me that we had some past, and I was not the best person. And so, knowing that my ass is the next one to go, instead of trying to talk about game, I said, let's not talk about game at all. Let's strictly talk about this and our other issues. And I was vulnerable with you in ways that honestly, right now, I feel like Boo Boo the Fool. I should not have been vulnerable with you because as more people come to the jury, I get told that everything I say to you gets told to the freaking whole Davis, and you were mocking me the whole time as I was being vulnerable. So
I wasn't mocking you. I did tell them.
Okay.
I did tell them. I'm sorry. I didn't mock you though.
That is not what I heard. I heard that you were like laughing the whole time. I want you to know that like it's one of those things where you baffle me because you are the same person that in the tribe chat all the time, like, no one talks to me, tell me something, no one talks to me, please come and call with me and talk with me. And yet, if we talk to you, everything we say gets just ratted out to the Davises immediately. So I just don't understand that side. I don't understand that. Like, I don't understand that aspect. So I'll give you just a few moments to explain that. And I want you to know, my feelings are hurt. I'll be a bitch, I don't care. My feelings are hurt.
All right, and I understand that, and I do apologize for that, and I do want to say that at points in time in this game, I do want to say that genuinely, you know, although that I did have a lot of connections with the Davis tribe, there were points in time in this game where, I mean, it really genuinely was, you know, as silent as I was making it out to be, and I know that it wasn't really the best of circumstances as far as the way that the situation may have been described to you. I did want to let you know that I, at one point, did say that I said I found it funny that we didn't necessarily have any game talk much at all on the call. That's what I said that I thought was funny. But aside from that, I didn't say like about our situation in particular that was funny because I did appreciate you and I did appreciate that conversation. And I do want to apologize if it was reiterated to you in any other certain type of way. As far as the way that I've perceived this game and the way that I tried to kind of talk to people, there was points in time where I did address my information to some of the Davises when people did approach me, but you were actually one of the only few people that ever actually did approach me with anything. So that's about it, but I do apologize if you did feel a certain type of way about our personal situation.
And I respect that. I want you to know that you're going to be facing a lot of people not happy with you. So I'm strictly pacing this. Like, I'm not trying to bring my emotions into it. Obviously, a little bit, but I'm not going to bash you in any way. I just like I'm going to air my grievances, and I feel like I did that, and I respect your response.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Most definitely. I don't know how much time I got left, but I want to like this is a few statements I want to say to both of you. So for me, I want you to take a moment to understand my issue here and how to decide my vote when this whole time there can be so much said about who was on what part of the like Davis, who was the one controlling and who was one following. I don't know any of that. I can only go based on hearsay because I was on the outside looking in. So you can say this, and this that you did. I don't know that for a fact because I never got to see any of that. I didn't have the privilege to see that. Based on what I've been hearing and based on what I've like been y'all both said and based on what kind of the jury is saying, I think it appears to me that Jake, of the three of you, you helped more of the like kingpin role. You were more the one in control of the Davises. One thing that I want to like correct and that a little bit bugs me about Ben, you said that your biggest problem is that like you could never find people to like make moves. You wanted to make moves, but you could never find people to do that with. You entered the merge with 5 Murphys, wanting to work with somebody, hoping to work with anyone. You entered the merge with 5 Murphys saying, I know we're on the bottom, but we will work with anyone given the opportunity. And besides the Jackson vote, they went out boom, 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 boom. So it's hard for me to like believe that aspect of you saying, I just wanted to make a move, I just need to find somebody. When you had 5 people and you really, where I gather, you really didn't take advantage of that. So can you at least explain that aspect, please?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that question actually, because I mean, when I came into the original Davis tribe, I felt like I was placed in a good position socially with Davis at the merge. So it wouldn't make sense for like, say, me or Livingston to flip to a tribe of 5 that seemed pretty united, except for maybe Brandon. I really didn't know what was going on with your tribe, you know? And with the initial comment that you talked about, that I didn't talk to you a lot, I did do my best to talk to you at the first vote. Like I didn't talk a lot with Luke. I just talked to him about, you know, Taco Bell and stuff like that, because I knew he was going to be the one leaving. I didn't want to burn him. I didn't want to tell him he was safe. With you, when you left, I was gone. I was on vacation. And I also didn't want to give you that false security because I knew you were going to that jury. I made a lot closer strategic conversations with people like Brandon, who I thought I could use more in the game, because you were the biggest threat coming in. Everyone said, like, you know, I didn't vote you because of Trinity. I didn't vote you out because of Trinity or anything. You've been a good friend to me. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't base it off that. I did it because everyone in-game, out-game, anything, you know, for the past few years about you has said that you are willing to do anything to win the game and that you have that reputation for yourself. And I saw that as a reason to vote you out. And, you know, if I was wrong, I'm sorry. But, you know, I didn't make that big of a connection with you because I knew you were leaving. And that's my argument. If there's any other.
Connor, I need you to wrap it up for me, please.
Okay, just real fast, wanted to say a quick question just for Jake, really fast. I want to know, like, with the Davises, obviously they stuck together. They stuck together very, 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 very long. I want to know from your perspective, who was the glue that from merge, very first round of merge to like freaking final 7, whatever, held them together and kept them all together? Who was the glue? How much of that was you?
I think it was at the time, me and Brian were the ones with my side alliance and also on the side with Ben and Livingston. So I would say I would take a lot of credit for being the glue that held Ben and Livingston together with us for as long as they did, when they could have easily flipped on us at any time.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate the answers. Y'all did pretty good answers, and good luck all you. And we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Connor. Unfortunately, Caitlin could not make it tonight, but she did send a vote. So our next juror is here. Brandon.
Can you guys see me? Can you guys see me?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, Brandon, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
My turn, you horse. Okay. I'm going to be working through a lot of emotions tonight. I'm just going to let you guys know that. I'm going to roast into you a lot. I'm just warning you right now. Just please don't take it personally. Just please, all right? For me. Ben, I'm not really going to talk to you. I feel like I have a good idea about what your game is, so I'm not going to do that. Don't take it as a sign of disrespect. You know I love you, dude, all right? Jake, I'm going to start with you, all right? I just want to say straight off, I think your positioning in this game was absolutely beautiful, if I might say so. Like, when I left, I knew you were going to be in the final 3. More sure than I knew about Constance, but I was pretty sure you were going to be in the final 3 more than anything else. But us as a jury is struggling to find a move that you did without Brian or Hunter. So quickly, what move did you make without them? And I swear to God, if you say either one of those names, I'm going to kill you.
Okay, so pretty much for me, it was always a timing thing. I knew I wanted to take a shot at them eventually. It was just I wanted to make sure it was at the right time where it wasn't going to fuck me over afterwards. So I waited until the very end whenever I kicked into high gear, won immunities, and I was able to take shot after shot in a row to get out the 2 people that I thought could beat me. And that's pretty much what it was.
I completely understand. I just wanted to comment quickly that a lot of people think like you're indistinguishable. I know you said that was a part of your strategy, but I think a big side effect in that is that you see more as a follower to Brian, especially because you mentioned you two are in final 2 and whatnot. So you need to find a way to distinguish yourself from that, because I feel like that's the biggest issue you have right now and whatnot. I just want to let you know that straight up. Be prepared for that. Some people are gonna roast you to filth. All right.
Gotcha.
Hi, Constance. First off, I just want to apologize for telling you to go fuck yourself after my thing. I was heated during that time, so I just want to apologize. I promise I won't get heated this time, but I just want to talk and just.
Okay.
All right.
All
Nothing personal, dude. All right.
Okay. All right.
So I think the first question I just want to ask, just a general question: how do you win Survivor?
I feel like that you win Survivor by making connections and outwitting, outplaying, and outlasting everybody.
Literally. How do you literally win Survivor?
I feel like that you literally win Survivor by just doing your best to, you know, get to where you're at, regardless of whatever it is that you have to do. That's just how I feel. I feel like that ultimately the way that I've played this game, I know that I've lied several points in time in this game. I know that I have started, you know, moderately on the bottom in the beginning, not fully. I do feel like that while I was a bit deceptive at certain points, and although I do seem like somebody that followed to a degree, I feel like that I did do things for myself that proved that I do have a game of my own.
I understand that. Can you just mute? Don't want to ask.
Sorry, I thought you asked me. Sorry.
No. It's fine. You can just remute now. I'm not gonna ask any more questions. So I'm just gonna answer my way, just because literally how you win this game is you have to get to the end, and then you have to get a majority of the jury to vote for you. I just want to point out, although we were the minority in the merge, we make up a majority of that jury. Making connections with us, even if I understand like the whole thing, I don't want you to comment on this. I'm just gonna say, making connections with us. Obviously, connections two-way street. I admit I didn't really talk to you as much, but it was also your responsibility to message us, message people like Connor and Caitlin and Michael and Luke, message us to show that you at least had some semblance of getting a jury vote. And I know I've heard you host games and whatnot. So in my mind, it's just like, it's one of those things where you should at least know how to get a majority of votes if you're pretty certain about you're going to the end. For me personally, obviously, personally, I don't have any issues against you. Gameplay wise, it seemed like you missed so many opportunities to make a move and distinguish yourself from others. I understand you were playing low key, but there were so many moments that you really enabled. There were so many moments throughout this game where you just failed to make moves, and especially the Luke votes, I think, is the one that pisses me off the most, because you had a chance to turn this entire game around from people who really voted off Nicole, who I know you were close to, from what I've heard, obviously. And you decided to go, oh, Leslie Jones on that shit, and live tweet us, from what we heard at least. And that turned a lot of us off. I just want to let you know that social connections are key in this game. And I know you obviously made social connections with a lot of the Davises. The Murphys are in control now. Just be careful of that. All right? I'm done.
All right. Thank you, Brandon. The next juror should be on his way.
Now it lets me in. Good week. Okay.
All right, Livingston, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Okay, first of all the really stereotypical congrats on making it here. I know a lot of us jury really wish we were sitting where you are. Jake and Ben, congrats on Final 2. Really wish I was there with y'all. Let me start out with my buddy Ben. We played a lot of this game together. I very much consider you like my tight person. We're on the bottom together. We played a lot. And I want people to know, because I don't think the jury fully understands your game. How did you adapt and try to work from the bottom, even if it didn't always work? Because I know a lot of people don't understand your game.
Yeah, sure. I definitely, coming into the merge, I knew that I would not be in the best position going forward in Davis, even though I had all these little alliances. I knew that eventually something was gonna, give, and I had to work with Murphy's to win this game. I knew that it was important. So I started at the very beginning, people that I saw a long-term relationship with, I started kind of planting seeds with them and making sure that I wasn't the one that was targeted by them. And even though I wasn't the one that was in control and making moves, I was always making sure that I would be surviving round to round by doing that. And I feel like that's something that the other two finalists didn't do very well. And even Livingston, I would criticize your game because you were a little bit too outgoing with the minority. I think that you made it obvious that you wanted to make moves. And I did it a little bit more subtly, where I was kind of, saying, oh, I was on the bottom of my tribe, you're safe, I have your back, things like that. Nothing about specifically making a move at any certain point. It was more vague, enough to keep me safe until the time I wanted to make a move, but not all the way, I didn't go put all my eggs in their basket.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, so Jake, we didn't link up until a little bit into the merge. Of course, we were with OG Davis. I wrote your name down pre-merge. Whether I write your name down again tonight, but for a different purpose, we'll see. I want to know how your game differentiated from OG Davis, and let me know about some of the things that I didn't see, because I really didn't know where you were at for a decent bit of the game.
I think a big part of my game was Davis. That was my game plan. Those are my people I was going to roll with, regardless. So I don't think it really differentiates too much from going Murphy or Davis. I knew about Hunter's vote steal. I know I lied to you and told you that I just found it out, and that was my reasoning for having to keep Hunter in the game and go against Brandon. I knew about that long before. I actually messed up and accidentally told Constance about it long before Hunter did, so I had to act like it was mine for a few rounds. And then give it back to him so he could use it to save himself. So that was something you probably didn't know. Yeah, I know we weren't really on the same page a lot. I was very worried about you because we weren't ever close. But ultimately for my game, that's what it came down to when I had to vote you out. If that answers your question, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's about it. So good luck with the rest of Final Tribal. Thank you for a great season, and I wish you all the best. See ya.
All right, thank you, Livingston. Our next juror is also on his way.
Ding dong.
Right.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you are good.
Cool.
All right. Welcome, Hearn. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay, last Murphy out, last Murphy in. Cool. So I'm not honestly going to congratulate you guys because quite honestly, I don't think you guys should be there. I think the two people that left last round should be there instead. I think objectively you all kind of played a similar game of kind of wait till someone else goes. So, I'm annoyed at you guys. I could sit here for hours and yell at you guys about how much I hate your gameplay and how much I don't want to vote for you, because I honestly don't want to vote for anyone. So my vote is really out there. And what is the best way to gain someone's vote than appealing to their ego? So for the next few minutes, we'll give you guys around 3 minutes. Y'all are going to compliment my game and tell me how amazing I am and why I deserve to win. You guys can go in any order, I don't really mind.
I'll go first, I guess.
Okay.
Personally, I think that you were extremely likable. I feel like that you have a big personality. I do believe that you are also somebody who, although does play a really calm game, nobody ever expects whatever it is that they get from you because you're always so aware of everything going on with or without people even telling you about it. And I do feel like that you were also somebody who would have won this game hands down had they had made it to a finale, simply because I do know that since most of the other Murphys are on this jury, had you made it here, it's like that right there. So personally, in my opinion, I was just happy to play with you again and just see, what your game was all about. So I actually really enjoyed playing with you.
Thank you. Okay, next.
I pressed the wrong button. I can go first. All right. So Michael, once I started having conversations with you at Merge, I immediately pinpointed you as one of the biggest threats in the Murphy tribe. I'd say Connor was number one, and you were very close behind. I even commented that you were directing our conversations exactly where you wanted them to go. I thought you were trying to convince me to send you foot pics or something. So like, even though I was very vocal against Hunter, I told people that at Final Six, if both of you guys didn't have immunity, I wanted you to go because of that amazing social game, and also because of the Murphys on the jury. But it wasn't all because of the Murphys on the jury. It was mostly because of your gameplay. And you also told me on call that you were amazing at Final Tribals. All those things really made me be wary of you, and I honestly thought you were definitely the biggest endgame threat.
Okay, thank you. Jake, you're up.
Michael, I always call you Michael. I don't call you Hearn. I knew you a year and a half ago as Michael, and I was super excited whenever I saw you in the cast. We could potentially talk again and work together. I think you should have been hottest in the cast. I know I said I wanted that one, but I think it should definitely be you. I think your strategy was amazing, being the last Murphy standing. Obviously the hardest thing you can do. Your immunity wins, awesome. That's what made you such a big threat. But you definitely held that down and got to Final Six regardless of how many immunities you were able to win. I just enjoy talking to you, having what's the word? Friendly banter, I guess you could say, having banter with you. And I really enjoyed that. And I was really sad to see you go, but it had to be done for my game. But you are amazing, a huge threat. And I know you would have whooped my ass here tonight. So, but you're amazing. Hashtag feel the Hearn.
Hashtag feel the Hearn. And actually, I have a few gifts. So one of my favorite things to do in movie theaters is bring in a bag of snacks. And since this is movie themed, we might as well have a bag of presents for you guys. Okay. So this is where I'm going to be a little bit mean, so don't take anything personal. So Constance, this is for you. So I know a lot of the time you like to throw little pity parties for yourself of, poor me, I'm never normally meant to be here, no one talks to me. So I brought you some champagne. It's not really champagne, it's kind of like shampoo, but it's champagne shaped, so it counts. Jake, this is for you. So I bought you some lube. Because if you're going to spend the entire game riding Brian and Hunter's dicks, you might as well make it an easy time. Ben, your name's not Brian, it's Ben. I don't have anything for you. That probably is going to be reflected tonight with my lack of jury vote for you. But I have something for you all to share. I'm not going to say this name out loud because you all know what it is, but you can use this to go and fuck yourselves. And with that, I say goodnight.
Alrighty. Thank you, Hearn. Our next juror is on their way as well. All right. Hello, Hunter. Whenever you are ready, you may begin.
What's up? Congrats, Final Three. First off, I just want to say I was playing a drinking game, hypothetically, in the jury. Every time y'all said my name, I take a shot. And let me tell you, I was drunk like last week, last month. I've been drunk for a while because y'all can't, even after the game, you cannot keep my name out your mouth. But now I have been keeping list of comments. So first off, I want to point out to Jake, you misspoke big time. And you said, and I quote, for sure could potentially beat Constance. Constance is not a for sure beat. I'm going to tell you that. And Constance, do not count yourself out. Fight. I know you feel bad and I can see it on your face. You look down. Fight for it. Jake, that is not a for sure beat. And you definitely took a notch down by thinking you have a win over Constance. Sorry. Ben, you said your social game is the best out of the three. I think that is false. I think yours is the worst out of the three. You never talked to me unless it was after the vote that you tried to get me out and you were like, well, yeah, you know why, or, well, we didn't vote together, or whatever the case. It was always after the vote. So your social game was shit with me. You also said you were in the best position at merge. I don't necessarily think that at all. I think that Jake and Constance were in a better position than you were. You tried to make me the vote like 3 or 4 times and you failed every time. You said that your move was like getting me out at final 5 or something like that. And I just want to say you didn't get me out. My 4-person alliance got me out. And yeah, and you also said you made the move against Brian. How can you take credit for a move that you said if you won immunity, you were still probably going to put Jake and Brian in? The move would have been winning immunity, giving it up, taking Brian out yourself. Your situation was Jake put you in against Brian and you had to win or go on the jury. So that's not a move. Jake, you said you were controlling the game all game. There's something that you said to me before I left that just really did not sit easy with me. You said, you're making yourself look even more ridiculous than you already looked all fucking game. So please elaborate on that.
I definitely felt angered at the time. I said that as a way because you were saying that everyone has said that I was riding Brian's dick the entire game. And that really offends me because I personally don't believe so. I know that perception is everything. And that just angered me because all I wanted in this game is respect for the game that I played. And I told you that's not fair to me, the things you were saying. So that was out of anger to give myself some of the respect that I thought I deserved. So that's why I said that. It was totally out of context, but I was angry.
Okay, well, you were given a chance to prove that you weren't riding my or Brian's dick all game, and your answer was timing was your move. So I'm going to give you a second shot. What was a move you made without Brian?
Definitely at the end, being able to cut ties with him.
Nope. Besides Final 5, Final 4. Because that was obvious. Me and Brian were the 2 biggest to win.
I think a lot of my game was with Brian. He was my number 1 ally. He had 2 idols that he said he would keep me safe with. I would be stupid to go against him anytime before it was necessary. We were on the same side and wanted to get you out, so we both did that. I think it does come down to me and him played a very similar game, but me being able to get here and him not was the difference.
Okay. Let me just say, Constance, you have hit it on the nail. I do think Ben was very cocky about his position in the game. But one more thing before I ask a specific question for all of you, Jake, I am wondering because you and Brian both said that I did not know jack shit in the game the entire time, but everything you have said, you were talking about your alliance with Ben and Livingston. If you remember right, I was in the call with y'all asking you to make that chat. I was the one that made the sexy 6. I was the one that made the sexy 4. I made all the chats. So what did I not know about in the game? Yeah, that's you.
I don't think you knew about, well, maybe you did. I had thought about getting you out long ago. Me and Jackson talked
I already knew about
pre-merge.
that. Yeah.
Then you knew my entire game.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not dumb. Me going at 5, like I knew once Michael went, I had to win out. Like if Michael won at 6, I was gone at 6. So I have 2 questions for both of you, and it doesn't need much explanation. First one, Jake, do you think the most deserving made the final 3? And if you don't, who are the most deserving 3 in the game?
I think the most deserving would definitely be Brian, I think he deserved to be here. I think you played a hell of a game strategical wise. I think besides you two, I think Michael also deserved a really good shot to be here because he played amazing as well.
Okay, the same question, Ben.
I hate to say it, but I have to agree with Jake. You were the 3 players that we absolutely needed to knock out at the very end, and that's why us 3 are sitting here, because we weren't the biggest threats, and unfortunately, that's just the way the game goes sometimes. You played the best games, and that's why we had to vote you out.
Constance?
I feel like that the people who are most deserving that should have been in the finale are obviously you. I would obviously probably say Brian. Brian played a hell of a game, huge socially. You were not only social, but you were dominant in both the physical aspects and everything else in between. So I definitely feel like that the 2 of you would have deserved to be here, and with Michael at a close behind.
Okay. I would just like to point out to everyone, they all said that they're not the 3 most deserving. My next one for my final question, Jake, I forgot to comment on this when I popped on the call, but I'm marking down how you said that I shouldn't have won the hottest cast member. So, but my last question is, besides Caitlin, because she's not here, I don't want y'all to take an easy way out potentially, since she already cast her vote. Who on the jury should not have a vote? Jake?
For me, it would probably be Luke because I think he knows the least about the 3 of us, being only in a merge tribe with us for like 2 days. I think he definitely knows the least about us, and his vote doesn't really. He even said he didn't follow the game, so I don't think he should get a vote for that.
Okay, Ben.
I don't want to say Luke. I would probably say Jackson. He hasn't played as many games as everyone. He hasn't been as experienced, and I think a lot of people saw his strategy, which was going on 15, 20-minute calls with everybody and just talking solely game. And it was very surface level game. And I think that if he talked more personal, got on a little bit more personal level, which I tried to do a few times, he, even with the Murphys, he would have been maybe even a little bit better set up in this game. So I'd say Jackson.
Okay, and Constance?
I would probably say Livingston. I feel like that if you're going to come to a finale and you're going to be on the jury, I feel like that you need to give everybody, an equal opportunity. But also, I feel like that, it's just respect out of respect. And ultimately, I feel like that the other 2 that they just named are giving that same equal respect. So that's how I feel.
Well, I appreciate that all 3 of you said someone different and didn't just piggyback off of each other. The last thing.
All right, Hunter, please wrap it up.
This is it. The last thing is I want y'all to remember this is a game. Nothing is personal. I don't want y'all to take tonight's vote personally. And then a lot of shit's happened around my world the past 24 hours. So just remember, everything is a game. Tell your loved ones that you love them. Hug them. Yeah. So good luck to all of you and make the best man win.
Thank you, Hunter. And our final juror should be on his way. And there he is.
And my world the past 24 hours. So just remember, everything is a game.
Brian, you have the live stream playing in the background.
Hug them. Yeah. So good luck to all of you.
All right, Brian, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Okay, so I will start with Ben. So Ben, I struggle voting for you tonight because there was 3 times in this game where I saw you try to make a move. At the second tribal council, when you tried to vote out Jake, and then at final 9 and final 8 when you tried to vote out Hunter. You failed all 3 times, and then you had other opportunities at final 12 to go flip with the Murphys, and also at final 10 to make a move against someone where you were on the outer of that group. So why didn't you make any moves when you should have, and why did you fail to make moves when you tried to?
First of all, I want to comment on the final 12 and final 10. I feel like you know the answer to the final 12 question. I trusted you a lot, and I trusted people like Jake, Livingston, Jackson a lot more than I trusted, say, Caitlin or Michael, who I only knew for a few days. You know the answer to that question. And then final 10, we all knew Connor was a big player, and he was the one that I thought needed to be taken out before any sort of moving and shaking in the game would have to happen. And I thought I could depend on you guys to make a move with me. clearly that wasn't the case. And I do think it was actually a strategic fault on your guys' part, because you let Hunter make it all the way to the final 5. It was so easy. It could have been so easy for him to make it to the final tribal. And if it was in my, I think I made the most logical move for myself, and I think you guys did not. For the Jake vote, Jake was like 2 Skype messages away from being voted out, as far as I understood it, Constance. Tim was scrambling. I don't know. I don't want to speak for Constance exactly, but Tim was scrambling, and Nicole and Constance were about to vote out Jake because he didn't have as much of a connection with Nicole, I guess. And Tim spread some lies about Hunter and Constance, and that's when they flipped. So I really wasn't told anything very concrete about that tribal. I was told up to maybe 15 minutes before the vote, it's either Livingston or Tim. I really had no idea. And those were the cards I had. And I think I played my cards the best way I could, even if other people did not.
Okay. And then following up to that, Jake, I think you've played a really good game compared to what other people think. The one problem that I think I have with your game is, why did you wait so long to make moves on myself, Hunter, and Hearn, when if any of us would have had an immunity run, would have somehow snuck their way, if I would have won the fire challenge, you would have had a way less of a chance to win this game. And why were you willing to take that risk? And tell me what, I'm confused on why you did that. I think that you should have probably taken out Hearn at 1 round earlier, Hunter one round earlier, and then taken me out at 5. And tell me why I'm wrong for thinking that.
I think it was definitely a risk. I always knew, like I've always said, timing was everything. And I didn't want to give anybody a chance to get one over by me by making a move too soon. I personally don't think those moves were too late because I got to the end how I wanted to anyways. But it was definitely a risk because you guys all were very good at challenges. And I just had to do what I had to do and get people out when I think it best benefited me and kept me safe the longest as well.
Okay. And Constance, my question for you is, you spent your entire beginning of your game being loyal to Hunter, trusting everything Hunter said. And the only time that you changed that loyalty was when at the final 5, when I came to you and exposed everything that Hunter did not tell you. How can I vote for you when you didn't have that read yourself and you needed someone else to come to you at such a late point in the game and tell you that?
Sorry, I didn't mean to mute. But anyway, I do feel like that you are correct in your statements of where I did trust Hunter for a long period of time. I do feel like, however, that, coming to me at Final 5 and telling me a lot of that information, at that point in time, I will say that was definitely a misstep for me as far as my perception of the game goes. I do feel like that I probably could have done a lot better in previous rounds had I found out the information previously. That is definitely a detriment to my game. I do feel like, however, though, that when it came down to me versus him, at least as far as like the vocal portion of it at Final 5, I did want to, be very clear that I did want to play my own game. I did want to do what I felt was best and, and definitely get out the biggest threat. And I wasn't afraid to say that to you, to Jake, or to anybody left in this game. And that's just basically what I ultimately wound up doing. And I also wound up being able to have him still not vote for me, even though he said all day, all night that he was going to be voting for me. So I was actually pretty surprised.
Okay. And then just quickly, since we have 2 minutes left, what's the biggest regret you have in this game, starting with Ben?
I'd say my biggest regret was, it was directly after the Brandon vote. I was a little bit heated that you guys didn't vote for Hunter. And I originally heard from before that Brian, Jake, and Hunter were close before the beginning of the game, which I did somewhat believe after that move was made. And I went to Hunter, I went to Constance, and I said that, and they immediately went and told you guys. One or two or whoever, I don't really know who it was, but either way, that was a mistake by my part. Honestly, I don't regret anything I did pre-merge. That was more of a personal thing for me rather than strategic, and I wouldn't have done it any differently. That was my breaking point in the game because I needed to somehow save myself and say like, oh, I was just I was just saying that, you know. So I think that was my biggest misstep in the game.
Okay, and Jake?
I think I regret the most not getting to know the Murphys more. I think because of the no swaps, a lot of my game came down to the Davises and how I could work that to my advantage in them and get as far as I could with them. So I definitely kind of kicked Murphy to the curb a little bit unfairly to them. But for my game, it was Davis 100% in my brain, and that's what I went with. But I wish I would have gotten to at least connect and learn more about them. That's probably what I regret the most.
Okay. And Constance?
I do also want to say that my biggest regret is obviously not having more of a social connection with the Murphys. I do want to say that that is a big downline for my game, seeing as most of the jury is Murphy related. And I do wish that I could have gotten to know more about them as people and as players. I feel like that if I had gotten to know certain people more as players, that things may have changed for my game had I had a chance to have those conversations. So that's how I feel.
Okay. I'm good with that.
All right, thank you, Hunter. So in the very beginning, the order for the opening speeches went Ben, Jake, Constance. So for your closing statements, we will be reversing that order, and it will go Constance, Jake, and then Ben. So Constance, whenever you are ready, 3 minutes, your closing.
Okay, so with me, I really want to win this game. I feel like that everybody's looking at me as a layup. I feel like everybody's looking at me for a lot of the negatives. But let me tell you guys a couple of things about my game again, just as I can reiterate. I started off at this game at the bottom, you know. I may have not been voted out, and I may have only received one vote at the beginning of this trouble. But let me tell you one thing. I do feel like that I deserve to make it to where I'm at right now. I deserve to sit here. I feel like that although people can say that I follow people or whatever it is that they feel like they want to say about my game, I feel like that I have been able to ease my way through each and every round and also get through certain aspects of this game that wasn't easy for that wasn't as easy for, you know, me as it was for other people. I feel like that I deserve to win this game because although I may have been deceptive at times, I wasn't afraid to speak my mind. I wasn't afraid to say what I needed to say, and I wasn't afraid to do whatever it is that I needed to do in order to secure my spot in this game. A lot of people can sit here and say that I may have not played the best social game, which is definitely true. I did not play the best social game with the Murphys. I definitely do admit that I could have done better on that point. I definitely could have done better in competitions. Instead, I relied a lot on my adaptability and my ability to be able to try and garner my social connections with the Davises. I feel like that I am somebody who is just being counted out when genuinely, I just feel like that I deserve this game because I worked my way up in this game hard to get to where I'm at. And I'm not going to let anyone discredit me for that because I am somebody who started from the bottom and worked my way up. I moved every vote. I'm sorry, I not myself, but at points in time, I moved the vote off of wherever it is that I needed to move it from in order to make sure that it wasn't me. And I also had to make sacrifices that other people didn't necessarily have to make in order to prove the fact that I was a loyal person in this game. And if it wasn't for the fact that I was loyal to my sexy six, I feel as though that somebody also would not be in this final three. And I feel like that I have been a great presence in this game, and I've socially dominated this game on my Davis side. And I feel like that I hope that you guys can see that from my end of the game, that I did what I needed to do in order to secure my spot in this game, whether or not people agree or disagree. Please consider everything I've said when you're voting. Thank you and good luck to your decisions.
Alrighty, thank you, Constance. Up next, we have Jake. Jake, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
So I knew in the game that I wasn't getting near enough credit that I deserved. In this game, I think a lot of it comes down to me working so closely with Brian might have been my downfall because people think I wrote his dick or whatever. But I was able to work hand in hand with the strongest people all game. I was able to work with them and moves that they wanted to do, I also wanted to do as well, and it was best for my game. I was able to work with them and trust them and use all the advantages they found to my advantage, and I worked with them until I couldn't anymore. I couldn't justify it for my game, for myself, to take them any farther than they had gotten in this game. My end game speaks to that. I definitely started playing for myself. I was able to take out two biggest threats to my chances of winning this game. But I was loyal to them. A lot of my game was with Brian. I'll admit that. You can't win this game alone. So everybody needs somebody. And for me, that happened to be Brian. And with that, he was able to get a lot of credit for the moves he made, but he was also getting all of the blood on his hands, whereas moves that I wanted to make and push to make as well with him, I was able to skate by without getting a big target on my back because of that. voting a majority every single time. I did play this game for myself, and a lot of people perceptions everything, and they don't see that. But I definitely think I did what I had to do each round to ensure that I had my best chance sitting here tonight, and I think I accomplished that. Thank you guys for your questions, and may the best person win.
All right, thank you, Jake. And we will close out with Mr. Ben. Ben, you may begin when you're ready.
All right, so at the end of the day, the game of Survivor is about surviving. It's about getting from day to day. And at the very beginning, I felt like I was on the chopping block. I was the one that was going home after Livingston, and I needed to change up my game. I didn't have the luxury that these people had of the Sexy Six or whatever it's called. I knew that I needed Murphy's and Davis's to win the game. I had tight connections on Davis. I mean, Hunter doesn't think I had the best social game. I think that, like I said yesterday in the Rites of Passage, I wanted to get to know Hunter more. He's the one person I wanted to get to know more, but a lot of the time, it didn't seem like he was willing to give me the time of day when other people like Jackson did. So I was more focused on making connections with them and kind of maneuvering myself. When I went on a call with someone, I meant that call and I needed to mean it. I wasn't able to have time to BS and lie to people because of my work situation. I think that I did the best to make sure that I got myself here. Just like people said, these people, they were expected to make it to the end a long time ago, but I had to fight to make it here. I was the one that was working both sides, the best to my ability. And if you don't award me the game, then I'm glad I made it this far, and I hope that you guys at least see it from my perspective and see why I made the moves I did, and that I was at least willing to make those strategic jumps to get myself further in the game and to get favor from the jury. So I really hope that you guys vote for me, and thanks everyone for playing. It's been a blast.
Alrighty, thank you, Ben. We are going to send the link to the Zoom to the jury members. However, during the voting process, we do ask you all to remain muted. So there's no talking during the vote. So jury members, you may begin to send your votes. And we will send the Zoom link. Good luck, guys. Alrighty, I have the votes. Remember, tonight you want to see your name on the voting parchments. To the three of you, you all made it here in your own ways, so you should all be happy and proud of yourselves. However, tonight we will finally crown our winner. So I will read the votes. First vote, Jake. Constance. Ben. It's 1 vote Jake, 1 vote Constance, 1 vote Ben. Jake. Jake. That's 3 votes Jake, 1 vote Ben, 1 vote Constance. And the winner of Surviving 1984 Director's Cut, Jake. Congratulations, Jake. How Surviving 1984?
Oh my God. Thank you guys.
Don't you dare start crying on us.
I almost did. Thank you.
Good job, Jake.
Good job, guys. Thank you so much.
All right, so we are going to end this live broadcast, and then we are going to invite all the pre-jurors, and we will do our reunion rewards and such.